Hello everyone, this is Miss Siddiqui here. In this video, I'm going to introduce to you the next book that we are going to read, The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So a bit about the author. Hawthorne was born actually on Independence Day in 1804 in Salem, Massachusetts, which you are familiar with having read The Crucible, but this time period is, of course, 200 years later that Hawthorne is living in. However, Hawthorne was writing about Puritan Massachusetts, which is the time period that The Crucible takes place in, and the time period in which The Scarlet Letter takes place in. So Hawthorne was known as kind of a reclusive author. He's famous for Twice Told Tales, The House of Seven Gables, and then his most famous, of course, is The Scarlet Letter, which we are reading. He married Sophia Peabody and had one daughter, Una. Hawthorne died at the age of 60 and is buried in Concord, Massachusetts. And actually, his great-great-grandfather, John Hawthorne, was a judge at the Salem witch trial. So there's a lot of connections that Hawthorne has to the Puritans of Salem, Massachusetts. So a lot of people speculate that that's why he wrote about this time period. So here is a portrait of Nathaniel Hawthorne. So the novel, The Scarlet Letter, is set in the mid-1600s in Boston, Massachusetts, so not in Salem. And the plot takes place over a 7-year period, and it involves a love triangle of a wife, lover, and husband. And the major theme in the novel that is developed is this idea of good versus evil. So just kind of to give you a recap of Puritanism, because you're already familiar with it, Puritan beliefs emphasize private study of the Bible. In Puritanism, you want education and enlightenment for the masses. Puritanism is all about the simplicity of worship. And the Puritans, again, are not like traditional Christians. They thought that celebrating traditional holidays was a violation of kind of regulative principle of worship. And they believed that the Sabbath was obligatory for Christians. The Sabbath is typically something that Jews observed, except they believed that the Sabbath, the holy day, is on Sunday. And some Puritans approved of the church involvement with courts, which is different than the separation of church and state, which we have today. So the novel The Scarlet Letter is told from the third-person omniscient point of view. So to review, that means that there is no limit to what the reader knows about the story and about all the characters and about all the action. So we hear the inner thoughts of each and every character in this novel. So speaking of characters, here are the list of the major characters. We've got Hester Prynne, who is the wearer of the Scarlet Letter. I'm not going to tell you too much about all of these characters just yet. Pearl is her daughter and is a living symbol of Hester's sin. Roger Chillingworth is a learned scholar and doctor and Hester's husband. Then we have Arthur Dimmesdale, who is an admired young minister in the town. We have Governor Bellingham, who is the governor and magistrate of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And then we have Reverend John Wilson, a senior minister of the colony. And then we have Mistress Gibbons, who is Governor Bellingham's sister. So the Scarlet Letter, like I said, is a love triangle. We've got Hester Prynne and her husband, Roger Chillingworth. They have a daughter together, Pearl, and Arthur Dimmesdale is connected to Hester and is connected to their daughter, Pearl. So you can see how that will brew some trouble in the Massachusetts Bay Colony during the Puritan era. So let's talk about some symbols you want to look out for as you are reading. So first of all, the title, The Scarlet Letter, is actually a physical symbol that has a lot of meaning. So the letter's meaning shifts as time passes. Originally, it was intended to mark Hester as an adulterer, and the A eventually comes to stand for Abel. We have the meteor, which as Dimmesdale stands out on the scaffold with Hester and Pearl in a chapter. There's a meteor that traces out an A in the night sky, and to Dimmesdale, the meteor implies that he should wear a mark of shame just as Hester does, and the meteor is interpreted differently by the rest of the community, which thinks that it stands for angel and marks Governor Winthrop's entry into heaven. So pay attention to how the A symbol and the meteor symbol are connected and symbolize different things to different characters at different points in this 7-year story. Then, of course, we have Pearl, the daughter, and Pearl is a complex character, thinking about her situation, and her primary function within the novel is to serve as a symbol. So she is the kind of physical embodiment of her mother's sin or her mother's sexual sin, and so she is kind of another physical scarlet letter, just like the A symbol. And then we have a rose bush, and the rose bush symbolizes the ability of nature to endure and outlast anything that man does or says or believes about something. So that'll make more sense when you get to it. So the Scarlet Letter opens with an introductory called The Custom House, which is a little bit different than the story itself. So in the Custom House, there is a narrator who's nameless, who resembles Hawthorne, but is not Hawthorne. And the narrator is said to be the chief executive officer of the Custom House in Salem. And if you are familiar from U.S. history, customs are basically taxes paid on foreign imports to the colony. And so the Custom House is where the colonists came to pay taxes. So in the Custom House, the narrator is bored, and because few people are coming to Salem now, and so he finds a bundle with a scarlet and gold A embroidered on it, and he holds it to his chest, and it appears to burn him. So immediately in the introduction, the Custom House, you realize that this A is a significant symbol in the story. So he comes across this manuscript about this incident 100 years before his time, and he ultimately, this story is rewritten to be the novel that you are going to read. So it's kind of providing a preview that like this could have happened during the Puritan era, so it could be based on real life events, similar to how The Crucible had some very real historical roots. So that should give you kind of a brief overview of the Scarlet Letter and of Hawthorne before we begin reading. And thanks for watching.